Hi, good morning. But, the first thing is, I'm afraid I need to speak English because, I just can't, right? I just cannot learn one language just overnight. So apologize, please bear with me. Bruce is my name, and we listened to the previous gentleman talking about lots of great future, like IoT, big data, and lots of people connections and so on and forth. So this session, let's talk about a little bit practical, the data center stuff, okay? So, lots of telco players, mainly in telecom industry, is doing the digital transformation. The reason why they are doing digital transformation because of some pressure, mainly because of cost, the time to market, and the new innovation. But let's get back to one thing really practical. Why we need to do this? I think there is one statement which I can share with you. We want to do more with less. It means that we got lots of facility in your data center, right? In any places, we got lots of machines, servers, storage, networking bandwidths, everywhere. But can we really utilize them? Can we really optimize the utilization? So, trying to fully utilize all your resource utilization is one thing, but no impact on performance, functionality, and availability. There is no impact. In the meantime, cheaper and quicker response to the global needs, the business market. This is what we want. So basically, this is the main reason to do the transformation. And why Openstack is the best choice for the transformation? There was one thing which I was experienced in the past 25 years in my IT career. There was always an argument, when we talk about open, there was always an argument to compare with the two things, open, proprietary. It is really hard, very difficult to identify which is good or which is bad because of the application is different. Just to remind, just one thing just came into my mind. Interesting thing is, I remember I was working for Oracle in 1998 or 1997, I just don't remember which year. One day I was in San Francisco talking to my big boss, Larry Ellison. Now, this is about a world session over there. At the session, Larry asked us, about 100 people, global in the world, 100 persons, asked us one question: what is open? I believe that, I'm not Larry, but I also would like to ask you guys, what do you mean open? Lots of people gave the answer. Lots of good answer because they are excellent people around the world. Lots of answer. Guess what? What is Larry Ellison's answer? You can imagine that, 1997 and what Oracle is doing now. I'm not promoting Oracle. I just want to share with the things. They said open, 4 words. Oracle provide everything necessary. Is that open? Nah, it's proprietary. But one thing, the idea can really solve the problem, can really solve the issues. So it triggered a very, interesting argument. No, I'm not saying the argument. I just want to say debate. Which is better? So from the cost-saving perspective, how we can accelerate the innovations, and the overall support perspective. We talk about this later, how we can judge which time we need to select open and somewhat proprietary is not bad, right? So let's talk about this later. For the environment perspective, for the management, for the overall architecture, it's a really good to have our open environment to make sure that each component to be integrated together at the very, very standard perspective. So this is the idea about how we make the architecture as an open basis. In Openstack, I believe that we all aware about that. So Openstack got very, very strong community. Lots of numbers. I don't really need to address every detail, but you can see the Openstack just started at about 7 years ago, or maybe later, or maybe earlier. But within this short period of time, this is a very strong performance globally. You can recall to Linux. In early 1990, Unix is dominant the enterprise environment, but at the meantime, Linux is coming. And the very first beginning, there was no Linux applications running. But Linux has been developed for tens of years, and now we got very, very strong platform running Linux. So for the open environment, it will take time. But we are very glad to see Openstack is really developed very rapidly, particularly for the telco industry. And there was some analysis from the consulting firm. Let's just take the first one and the last one, for example. Forrester, he mentioned about what? The compatibility. I think it's one of the very key indicator for an open environment is to compatible with each component within the architecture. This is very critical because if there was some special function, special design, the customer requirement, it means that there must be some customization. Based on what? Based on open component. This is the first thing, compatibility. From IDC on your right-hand side, the right corner, lower the barrier. In the past, almost 30 years, particularly in telco industry, I think not only telco industry, for each industry, particularly on the top player, there is always a threshold, a barrier to make sure that their business applications can run smoothly. But the open environment really, really help us to lower the threshold so that we can a little bit easier to cross the barrier, to cross the threshold, to come out more innovative application and the idea which can drive our business. So this is very important for us to understand a little more on innovation itself. So we were talking about open. Now I would like to talk about a little bit, how about Huawei and Openstack? What's the relationship? What we have contributed on the community, and what we are going to do in the future. This is our steps. It's starting from 2012. At that moment, we just started to join the community, and we dedicated a team to support. You can imagine that in total, globally, we have more than 700 people, a team dedicated for Openstack community development, testing, and deploy the project globally. Right now, Huawei is pretty honored to be one of the 8 platinum members on the board, which we really pleased to have the influence. We really pleased to have the idea which we can really drive with our partners, to work with the other partners in the community to make sure that our developing, our testing could be better and better day by day. This is what we are doing for the leadership team. So we are doing a lot. I don't really need to read through all the things. You can just look at that. But mainly, we covered in the major project in Openstack. We mainly cover we are the core members in a lot of projects which we really support in our open lab, which is, I will talk about this later. And of course, for the community ownership, the leadership and ownership, we proactively participate in the community which developed and running by Openstack globally. Okay, so I remember this year, early this year, I was in Boston to participate the Openstack Summit there in Boston. We see a lot of good engineer, good projects running, which is very exciting. And the new summit will be happening in Sydney, right? Hopefully you can have opportunity to go over there, to join, to enjoy the very good and exciting presentations and the speech. So, what's the value from Huawei can really deliver? Two ways: to the customer, to the community. Because Huawei is in between. We are as a bridge who is running, look at the customer requirements. At the meantime, we provide recommend, suggestion to the community to see how we can run better, how we can run further. So let's talk a little bit more about what our contribution is. This is what we are doing, trying to fill the gap. So one thing I would like to share with you is what's the sole purpose of Open? I traveled around the world in the past couple of years. I listened to the clients and listened to the partners talking. We were talking about, lots of people talking about open. It's very straightforward. Open means that, there was no boundary. There was no vendor, so-called vendor login. The product in the architecture should be COFs. The commercial are the shelf. So you can pick whatever component from the store and replace anything within your architecture, which is very good. It's a very ideal situation. But how about that? Is that really running? Is that really real, practical? Think about that. In our developing scenario, in OpenStack, the basic, the core architecture, we call it native OpenStack. And the next version will be commercial version. So it means that from the lab, I remember there was in the previous or the first session, there was some myths talking about OpenStack is in the lab, it is not commercial, which is wrong. It is really commercial, and the next step would be so-called vendor or function specified version, which we've done a lot. For example, Huawei spent a lot of effort in doing that we called function specified version by adding, for example, data protection, network performance enhancement, and the multiple site data center linkage. This is what we are doing mainly for data center because we believe whatever things, the IoT, the robots, and everything, at the end of the day, all the data will become informations, and then it become an analytical intelligence. But they will fall into data center, no matter where. No matter where. In Istanbul, in Dubai, in anywhere. At the end, the data should be put somewhere else. We need to keep it. We need to save it. We need to use it. But then, we need to store it for reference. So when we look at this, you can see Huawei spent a lot of effort to try to fill the gap, not only for the downstream, but also from the upstream. For the customer needs, we try to fulfill the gap among public cloud, hybrid cloud, and also the NFVI and private cloud, for the functionality. But at the meantime, we feedback to the community periodically. Right now, every 6 months, we have a new update all the way back to the community to update all the project status and what might be the needs, what's this new idea. We can, trigger, we can come out a new project. There were lots of contributions from Huawei, but here comes the key contribution. 3 things: customer requirement, the ecosystem, and the innovation, which I mentioned to you about the customer requirement and innovation. I would like to talk about the NFVI particularly, and this will be a session this afternoon. I will leave this to the afternoon session. But one thing I would like to share with you is about Open Lab. Huawei develop, create, allocate the resources, $30 million a year, US dollar, in 5 places, 4 in China, 1 in Germany, in Düsseldorf. Create an Open Lab. What does it mean? It means that, do you remember we're talking about ecosystem? Infrastructure is infrastructure. It's very straightforward. But the critical thing to make sure that your business's success is the business application. Do you remember that I shared with you for the argument for open and proprietary? One of the key influence, impact factor is about business application. If the business application is not changed, the behavior is not changing, it doesn't really matter about your infrastructure, how good. The business still cannot enjoy, the customer still cannot enjoy the change of the infrastructure. So thinking about the application compatibility. So that's the reason why we create the 5, and there will be more, few more, I cannot say a lot. There will be few more, let's wait and see. Within the following 9 months, there will be other Open Lab in the other place. The main purpose for these Open Labs are helping Huawei and customer and associate business partner like, for example, SAP. How can their financial module can really certify on the cloud platform to make their respective customer really enjoy the cloud financial module application. So this is what we are doing globally, and you are much welcome to contact our local representative to check, is it possible to work with Huawei with your partners to make sure that your application can really run on cloud? I think this is one of the challenges which lots of people is facing, because no matter how your infrastructure is good, your application is not compatible with the environment. The operation model is not compatible with your environment. So I just want to share with you what our Open Lab is doing. So this is a little bit on the product itself. We have a product called Fusion Sphere. It's our cloud OS. So the main reason why I'm putting here, because of this create the possibility to work with the world-class famous virtualization environment together. I hate to say that, but we got to live with, as IT people, we have to live with the environment within the following, I would say, 5 to 8 years, coexist with the different system alone. You cannot just, we cannot just migrate one legacy environment overnight to the cloud environment and sleep well. But we wish to sleep well. We don't want to wake up at 3 a.m. because of some environment is down, right? But is it possible to do it overnight? I'm afraid not. So it will take us some estimation for the decoupling of the infrastructure. If we exercise it correctly, 70 to 80% of your business application could be decoupled. But unfortunately, the 20% of your application is still running as what it is because of there was some technology boundary has been set. For example, there were lots of, particularly for city operation, performance is a very, very key critical success factor. And if we decoupled everything, it means that there were lots of interconnectivity in between. How we can fill up the gap, mainly on latency. Of course, if one day the latency could be filled up, which is fine, you will be very happy. 100%, your application can run on public cloud, can run on your private cloud, and we can mix in the hybrid cloud, but not now. I would say not now, okay? So this is what Huawei has been joining, not only Openstack, but associated open sources community, particularly two things I would like to share with you. For OpenNFV is one thing. Of course, it also Huawei plays a platinum member as part of OpenNFV. The other one is Docker. I remember the previous gentleman mentioned about the container, which is very good. I remember it's the first one, the fast growing the category from cloud. We work with Docker very closely on container application at the DevOps environment development. So I just want to share with you, say that open means that we need to communicate with lots of partners, work together, and look at the bigger picture instead of look at the one point. So this is what we are doing, and we are going to do more in the future. And this is what we are doing now. For the core project and the so-called optional project, but the optional project, it doesn't mean that optional project is not important. It might be important for some specified industry or application, like Ionic, like the other heat for those innovation and capability, which we are going to drive the high availability, high performance, and reliability improvement. This is the architecture from Huawei. It's quite clear from the infrastructure perspective, all the way down from storage, server, networking. In the middle, we have a cloud operating system just in the middle, but we embrace Openstack. We use the native Openstack function API and commercial API, add on what we learn from customer, what we learn from the partners, we add on to be the so-called functional specific version, and plus, there were some customer specified requirements. Our service team, our consulting team, work with our customer to customize the needs. So again, I repeat as my statement, say that the sole goal, the sole objective of Open It's not really, it is trying to make our customer focus on your business instead of building the generic blocks. Just leave to the vendor, just leave to the community. Focus on your business, create the 10%, really make your business success application to be successful. So this is the architecture. So we are not only the infrastructure vendor, we also provide the management framework, which we can support multiple data centers, multiple sites, so on and forth. Contact our local representative. We can share you more, just in the booth. 4 things I would like to share with you in the last slide. Why Huawei is different in Openstack. Now, we really provide not only private cloud, but also on our the public cloud area, hybrid, and industry-focused applications. We can provide the end-to-end integrate for the software, hardware, the management framework, trying to decoupling the options. The third one, I believe that you are all aware that Huawei has been in telco industry for 30 years. So we got very strong technical DNA. We know what customer needs. We know what might be the future. We know how 5G is running. So leave us to work with you for the technical business improvement. The last thing is the community. We really appreciate that Openstack offers us the opportunity to work with the very good team and the partners and the customers, which we can drive the contribution particularly and the innovation. This is our presentation today. Thank you. Bye-bye.